We are, believe it or not, already familiar with classes in Python in the sense that we've already worked with them. We've been using classes the whole way through, actually. And that's okay if you find that surprising. In fact, you should, because we haven't necessarily explicitly said that. But let's talk about it a little bit and let's dive into what we have done with classes. And I think this will help bring in this whole class conversation, bring this class conversation and concepts together. So if we dig into the documentation of int, so integers, we will see that it is a class and it has a constructor. We'll talk about that in a bit. This method for building the class. It's a blueprint or a template, as we talked about in the last video, for creating objects of type int. Strings are also a class. We've used string.lower, the lower method of the string class. List is also a class. We can see the methods that are associated with it, like list.append. Append is a method of the list class. Dict is also a class. So if we look at, when we've done this before, dir, and we do that on a list, for example, the list class, we can see these methods are methods of that class. And these other items are also defined within the class. These are our magic or dunder methods, which I won't get too much into, but they modify the behavior of the class. So we're going to be creating our own classes with our own methods and our own attributes. And we can create constructs very similar to the built-in constructs of Python, like these data types. If we go over and look at the Python documentation and we look under built-in functions, we can search for class. Let's search for class int. Int is a class, or class string, a class, list, a class, dict, a class. So the Python documentation, if we dig down into that, list, set, tuple, those are classes as well. We see this terminology. We can, let's see if we even click on this. We can see the documentation of the list class a little bit. But we've used classes. That's the point of this lecture, is that we're familiar with them in that sense. So I want you to keep that in mind as we progress learning about classes, that we have used them. We've used the methods the same way that we would use list.append to use one of its methods. When we create our own classes, we'll use our class name, dot, and then a method that we can define. So we will get into that very shortly, but want you to keep this in mind as we talk about classes, that we are already somewhat familiar with them.